That down. Let's move on to the next topic here, shall we? Paris, what's up next?
Well, as we've been mentioning all day and week and month,
Game day!
today is Deadpool 3 Day as the year's most anticipated film hits theaters. We all know the movie will be big, but the question now becomes just how big and how historic will the opening weekend be? So, John, the day is here.
Yep.
What is your final opening box office prediction for Deadpool and Wolverine?
All right. So, I said this a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. I still am believing it will set the new box office record for the all-time biggest opening for an R-rated film. I think it will be somewhere between, what did I say, that 160 and like 210. Somewhere, and that's a wide range, maybe 170 and 210.
Yeah, I think you said
That's where I see it coming. Monumental, historic, all-time record for opening for an R-rated film. That's where I'm seeing it. Now, the guys over at the Vulture really put it in a really nice context that I thought we would go over here about the different levels of historic that this opening weekend could be. So let's go over and take a look. So the guys over at Vulture say, okay, this would be not historic if the movie makes less than 125, which is still a really good opening weekend for any movie, but if it makes less than $125.5 million domestically, it won't be bigger than Deadpool 2's opening weekend, and will have the worst. It's funny calling a movie that makes $125 million on its opening weekend the worst. Anyway, it will have the worst performing opening weekend of the Deadpool franchise. Yikes. Again, I agree. If it makes like $120 million opening weekend, that is not historic in any way. But do you know how many movies would kill to have a $120 million opening weekend? Again, just want to put in perspective, Fall Guy and Furiosa, both really good movies in my opinion, didn't even make 30. They made in the 20s. So you show them a $120 million opening weekend, they'd be pretty happy with that. But I agree, would not be historic in any way. A great opening weekend, not historic. All right, then they move on to the next category, which they call pretty historic. Deadpool and Wolverine would do okay by passing the first Deadpool movie's $132 million domestic opening weekend record for R-rated movies. That's important to remember. The current all-time biggest opening weekend for an R-rated film is Deadpool 1 at $132 million. Deadpool 2 is second with 125.5, while the horror movie It takes third with 123. So, okay, let's say it makes more than 132 million. Well, then it becomes kind of historic. Again, whenever a movie breaks an all-time box office record, that is noteworthy. So if this thing can, which I think we all believe it will, I don't know if there's anybody out there that believes Deadpool and Wolverine will make less than 132 million. But that will be pretty historic. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, Miracle Made. Guys, it's hot outside and your nighttime bedroom temperature has a huge impact on your sleep quality. So if you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Miracle Made sheets are inspired by NASA and use silver-infused fabrics that are temperature regulating so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. There are just so many things that make these sheets so fantastic. We already mentioned the self-cooling properties for better quality sleep, but they're also self-cleaning. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. So go to trymiracle.com/Campea. That's TRYMIRACLE.com/Campea to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code Campea at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. So upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/Campea and use the code Campea to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Campea to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. Okay, their next category is awfully historic. This is where the current projections of around $160 to $170 million would land. At that point, the movie's opening weekend would not only break the record for R-rated films, but also start competing with recent high-grossing films of any rating. For reference, Inside Out 2 made $155 million. And that movie just crossed $1.4 billion worldwide. Started off with an opening weekend of $155 million. So it would clearly be bigger than that. It would be the biggest opening weekend of the year for a movie of any rating, domestically over the Father's Day weekend. That is this year's best opening performance by far. Dune Part 2 is the second biggest opening weekend of the year with $82.5 million. Once we're in this range, there's also potential for an MCU matchup. Black Panther Wakanda Forever's $181.3 million opening weekend performance has not been surpassed by any Marvel movie since the sequel released in 2022. Okay, so we've gone from pretty historic, becoming the all-time R-rated box office champion ever for an opening. Now you're getting in numbers of now being like the biggest opening of any movie of the year, period. And being right up there, being the biggest opening of any Marvel film in the last couple of years. So now you're getting into really, really big numbers. Now, the final category they have is historic. To reach this level, Deadpool and Wolverine would need to be gunning for all-time opening weekend records, which it never will, by the way. There's no chance in hell. Avengers Endgame holds the domestic record with, get this, this is just, you can't help but giggle.
For an opening weekend.
The opening weekend record, which I don't know will ever be beat, is $357 million opening weekend. That's ridiculous. Now, of course, that's a movie that had a 20-plus movie build-up with 15-plus years with like 30 big, huge A-list movie stars and all the stars aligned, but still $357 million with a considerable gap over Spider-Man No Way Home's second place performance of $260 million. Either way, Kevin Feige wins. Okay. I would say this. If Deadpool and Wolverine, and I don't think it will, manage to beat Spider-Man No Way Home's $260 million, which again, for the record, I don't think it will. I'd love it if it did, but I don't think it will.
Yeah.
Now I agree with Vulture. You are into historic. You're talking about rewriting. You're talking about, aside from Endgame, think about how many motion pictures have come out in history. You're talking about a movie that, if it beats Spider-Man, that aside from Endgame, which is an outlier, because again, it's the 20th sequel of a 15-year buildup with 20, 30, 40 big, huge movie stars in it. There's never been anything like it. There will never be anything like it again. But still, if you take that out, Deadpool and Wolverine would have made more money on opening weekend than any other film in history, other than Endgame. Like, now you're into historic. So where do I think this is going to end up? I think it ends up in awfully historic.
Yep, I agree.
That's where I think it's going to come in. I'm thinking 170, 180, 190. Wouldn't be surprised if it got to the 200 mark, stuff like that. That would be massively huge. But again, it would beat, think about this. If it, let's say 180. Let's say it makes 180. Normally when you break an all-time record, you break it by 5 million or 3 million or 7 million. If this movie makes $180 million, it will beat the previous all-time opening for an R-rated film by over $45 million. That's double what Furiosa made in its opening weekend. Take what Furiosa made in its opening weekend, double that, and that's how much Deadpool 3 will beat the previous R-rated opening record by. I mean, it's unprecedented. It's absolutely phenomenal. So I think it's coming in on awfully historic. So Ray, it's the last day. Listen, we change our predictions as new information comes in. So this is your last chance. We're going to go see this movie in 3 hours. Where do you see Deadpool and Wolverine coming in now?
It will at least make $45 million opening weekend.
That's, I agree.
God.
I agree.
Wow. Gutsy call.
I agree.
Gutsy call. At least
You're probably
45
right,
million.
Ray.
By 7 p.m. tonight, it will make at least 45 million.
I could see that happening.
I think
and
the
also,
popcorn buckets made 45 million.
I will say it's going to make 217 million.
217.
17.
Okay, that's certainly possible. Jonathan, what do you got it coming in at?
I've upgraded and upgraded and upgraded. I'm still probably conservative by this room standards. I'm saying 185.
185. Okay. And Paris, what are you saying right now?
I'm definitely in the 200 range. I'm thinking 200 to 205.
200, 205. So we got a high at 217, a low of, we'll call mine the low because I'm going to average it out around 180. Okay. So I'm still saying we're between like 170 and 200, whatever, but I'll say that my specific is 180. And we got some people in the live chat who have much more optimistic appraisals. I'm seeing
yeah,
Logan
wow.
is saying 215. Dr. Stinky is saying
275.
275.
Sheesh.
I'd be happy if it does.
What was that next category?
I'll be super happy if it does.
What was past awfully historic? It was
It had to get over like 180.
historic.
Yeah, historic has to get to about 250, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
To be that historic.
Awfully historic was 160 to 170. Or
What's that, Ray?
Okay.
No, just Chef Rigo chimed in. He just the way
What did he say?
He just said, "F it, 300 million."
That's true, whatever. 300 million.
You know.
I mean, listen, I also want everybody to keep this in mind. All right? Remember this. While 95% of the time, the box office predictions are like practically bang on that the industry gives. Every once in a while, that 5% of the time, there's an outlier. And in just the last couple of weeks, we had Inside Out 2 that was projected going into its opening weekend. It was projected to have an $85 million opening weekend, which would have been great. And it made 155. Then this past week, the opening weekend projection for Twisters was 45 million. It made 82 million. Now, those are the rare exceptions. But could that happen to Deadpool? Could this projection of 170 turn into 275? It's possible. It's possible. Again, I'm going to stick in my number range because I think, those are all-time great numbers that I'm guessing too, but who knows? We will have to see. The question is, number one, will I be able to get a Wolverine popcorn bucket today? This is the most important question on my mind. But number two is, what do you guys think? This is your last chance to send in your predictions. How big will this thing be? What are you expecting? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.